All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Brad Miller. I'm a certified health coach. I've got the man, the myth, the legend, Casey Mitchell with me today. Casey, what's going on?
What's going on, Brad? Good to see you.
All right. We're jumping in this week. We kick off our focus group as we record it today. It starts tomorrow, 30 days to focus on what everyone wants to focus on in their health, in their own journey moving forward. But during this process, we voted on topics to kind of help understand nutrition and the science of it and how this all works to kind of go along with what people are doing while they're on plan and seeing results, kind of helping them dial in their nutrition at a higher level. And as we all know, knowledge is power. So this first week, we're actually going to be referencing everything off of Habits of Health chapters 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11. So if you want more information on that, you can go read in there. This is kind of where a lot of this information is based out of. But this week is one of our most voted on topics is understanding fat burn, weight loss, and basically overall nutrition, which is a great place to start because we're starting all of this. You know, as you're getting your plan set, it's good to know what you're doing and how it all works. So, Casey, you've seen people try to lose weight, optimize, get fit for shows, body composition for over 20 years in the industry. So you know the highs, the lows, the ins, the outs, the struggles, the not struggles, what works, what doesn't. And a lot of it actually ends up going in people's heads. Like if we could just get a lot of the information out there so that people actually know what works and what doesn't, what to be doing, and why different things work for different people, there's going to be a lot of relief in that. So first, before we actually get into explaining fat burning, Casey, tell us a little bit about just how weight loss works and maybe some things of why it's not easy for people in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the reason weight loss would work is that when we eat fewer calories than we burn, you're going to see a reduction in weight. Now, we want to make sure that that's mostly body fat. That would be the number one goal. We want to tap into that body fat for that extra energy. The whole reason your body has stored fat is to tap into it in a time of need and use it for energy. So we want to create that time of need, which Dr. Anderson talks about perfectly in those chapters that you referenced. But finding the reason for your body to let loose of some of those fatty acids. You let loose, you use them up, and then you maintain your lower calorie eating throughout a period of time, and you see that weight reduction that you're looking for. So that's the reason why it would work. The reason it's hard is because we've taken a look at portion control around the U.S. And what's considered a portion is usually like 3 to 4 the size of what it really should be. So, we have this impression that, we should be able to get the most for our money and eat as much as we can. We don't want to waste food, so we continue to eat more. We're not exactly sure what a serving size is, but yet it's on the label on almost everything that you can find. So there's a lot of just misconception on what a true meal should look like for most people, right? So that's hard. And then, of course, you have all the social elements. You have almost every single thing that we do is tied into food in some way. So if it's a birthday party, if it's a holiday celebration, if it's even a funeral, it's usually there's food around that is going to be one of the main things that you need to focus on if you put on one of those if you're hosting one of those events. So that becomes an issue. But there's a lot of emotional stuff that goes into it too. It's energy. It's eating out of depression. It's eating out of comfort. It's eating because you're hungry. And that's probably one of the biggest things I want to hit today, Brad, is that being hungry doesn't necessarily mean that you're not eating enough. Okay. And let that sink in for a minute, because you can actually be hungry after having a 2-liter jug of Coca-Cola. You'll still be hungry. In fact, you might be more hungry at that point because there's a lot of things that can stimulate and make you feel like you haven't had any food. You can go to the Dairy Queen and you can have a big blizzard that has, let's say, 1,500 calories in it, and literally 15 minutes later be hungry. So it's not like your body doesn't have everything it needs calorie-wise, but there's a lot of things hormonally going on that will tell your body that you've had enough to eat, that let your body do its work during this time and just let things roll. And then there's a lot of things that we've done over time where we've actually shunted off the ability for your brain and body to read those signals back and forth. So those hormones are extremely important. And then we get closer to getting into sync when we start getting into a well-oiled program like what we have going on with the 5-in-1 and some of the other programs that we offer. So that's one of the things that I want to focus on.
Yeah, and we'll break down some more of that in the next few weeks as we go forward. But as a quick recap, I think it's good to focus on all of those things. And by the way, everyone, I forgot to apologize. So I've lost my voice, obviously. So thanks for sticking with me today. But so going back to what you were saying is the emotional aspect, the understanding your body's reaction to it. But in general, weight loss, and there's more factors that will play into it, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But a big thing to grab onto is that it's calories in versus calories out and having a deficit so that your body will burn its body mass. And ideally, like you said, body fat, not like your lean muscle mass, so that you can lose weight. Difficulty on that is all the elements that go along with it, and just being able to stay on track, all of those things there. So there's a lot of reasons why those don't work for a lot of people.
Correct. And we know that people underreport drastically on how much they think they actually ate and how much they really ate. That's a common thing that's been studied for centuries. So those are all issues, is that, we quite honestly, we don't feel like we're doing a bad job. And if we're hungry, we feel like we're doing a really good job for some reason, because we kind of think that, hey, I'm hungry, I must be really losing body fat right now, right? It's like I'm in a deficit. But what that can do is if we don't control it, at some point you're going to break, and you're going to have a trigger event that's going to wipe out your whole entire week of awesomeness if it's too high. So, but with that being said, that doesn't mean you have to be perfect all the time. That means that if you're following a general calorie reduction, you would probably be able to stay in pretty good control and lose weight at a slower pace, but you would continue to lose weight. So that's one of those things that you hear people say, if you lose weight slowly, you're going to be able to maintain it longer after you decide to go back the other direction. And that's not always true. A lot of times what we see is that people need a stimulus. They need to see that the weight is really coming off. So rapid success is something that I think is really critical in these days where people have tried almost everything and they're just kind of ready to give up and they want to try this one last thing, and then they do it and they see rapid results. That's something you can get behind, right? It's like, I saw amazing results this last week. Let's see where I can really take this now. Versus like, hey, I lost 1/4 pound over the last 3 weeks. I can really keep this pace going. Sometimes people are a little frustrated by that because they may feel it's a daunting task to lose 50 pounds or 75 pounds if you're only losing 1/2 pound a month.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so much we can dive into on that. So those are a lot of the reasons why it doesn't work. And we're not going to get into the other reasons. We're going to stay actually mostly on the nutrition science side today, but we have 4 components to our program. You have a health coach, you have education, you have support and community, and you have fueling plans. So all of those kind of actually end up maintaining the glue for you to be able to stay on track, like you were talking about the emotional stimulus. But let's go down to our plans and what we utilize. We'll get into explaining fat burning on the 5-in-1, but we use a process of eating 6 times a day and using meal replacement fuelings with all of your needed protein, macronutrients, vitamins, and minerals that are portion controlled and that are just like, you don't have to worry about over or under reporting. They're already done for you. They're convenient, they're easy, they can work with anybody, and we have different plans that they work with. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out, the under-reporting out, and they're quick and easy. You're really less likely to go off track if you utilize those. Plus, if you're like me, they come into my house. I always tell people I'm not healthy because I have great self-control. I'm healthy because I don't bring stuff into my house, and I have this stuff coming into my house. So those are some of the reasons. And then also we have probiotics within them that assist with gut health through the process. So just some things from that part right there. Before we even get into some of our plans and how fat burning works, why do you, Casey, with all your years of industry, like using our program? Like, what do you see as a benefit of it?
Well, number one, portion controlled meal replacements. I just posted a study on Facebook. The study wasn't done on Facebook. I posted it on Facebook, but it was actually talking about how successful portion controlled meal replacements have been over the years for people who have weight loss and for maintenance too, which was huge. People often eat with their eyes instead of their hunger or their belly. So if it's there, they'll eat it. So if your portion control is, that you're done after you've had one item or one serving of whatever, that is going to go a long ways into that control, because you've realized that you've had your serving and you're good. If you give it enough time, it's probably going to hold you over until your next meal. So, but if we saw a plate full of even our portion controlled meal replacements, if there was a plate full of them, we might have that tendency to go back for a second one and a third one and a fourth one just because it's there and it's available, right? So that's one of the things that I find is huge. The other thing is that you don't have to really, other than your lean and green meal, you don't have to weigh and measure anything. You know exactly what's on the labels in the product. You're going to eat it, and you know what you're getting. I think the hugest thing is the nutrition. You have basically 25% of the RDA of vitamins and minerals in each one of those meals. So when you've had 5 of those throughout the day, you're well over the recommended daily allowance of your vitamins and minerals, which you have a hard time doing. Going back to my prepping my meals for my bodybuilding days, you would have a hard time getting that level of nutrients into those small meals 6 times throughout the day, coming from plain rice, plain chicken, that kind of stuff. It just doesn't, there's and a very small amount of vegetables. So it'd be hard to get all those vitamins and minerals in there in the way that your body is expected to absorb them. Like if you do a multivitamin, and I don't even want to get into how many bad multivitamins there are, proven, by the way, too. There's a lot of them. But if you have one a day, your body was never intended to get all of its nutrients in one pill a day, right? But if you think about how the human body would eat over 5 or 6 times a day, you're getting a little bit of nutrients with every single meal, provided that your meals are healthy and a wide variety. So that's basically what we're mimicking here, is that you're getting a very good amount of minerals and vitamins inside your meal at each meal. So that's gives your body enough time to absorb it and actually use it. By the time you get to your next meal and some of those things might be getting depleted again, you get to add them back in again. So I think the hunger part for a lot of people too is that they're not getting those nutrients. So there's actually cells that are asking for vitamins and minerals that they might be missing, and that can trigger all kinds of additional cravings. And sometimes we can just feel like we're hungry and we don't. What are we hungry for? We're hungry for chocolate, or we're hungry for I just need some protein or something. You just have those like certain requirements that your body's saying, hey, you might be missing a little bit of iron here. Maybe you need some protein to get the iron, that kind of stuff. So I think that's a big thing. The fact that we've added the vitamin D and the probiotics, that's just brilliant, because that's such a huge focus on people these days.
Yeah, that was just, I love.
One last one. This one's huge. I got to add this one.
Yeah, go for it.
I think Dr. Anderson refers to it as flavor fatigue. But I tell you what, to this day, I can't eat dried chicken breast because of all the years that I did it as a bodybuilder. So, but knowing that I can have a brownie, knowing that I could have a sloppy Joe flavored meal replacement, knowing that I could have a soft serve ice cream flavored, or pudding or something like that, there's no flavor fatigue. How many meals what's the variety? How many different meals do we have?
Over 90, which also allows us to hit any dietary needs or allergy issues of people too, giving people the ability, but also options.
Yeah, that's mine right now. The reason why I still do 2 to 3 of these after maintaining my weight for the last 7 years is because of those things. I have to have my brownie every day because I do have a sweet tooth. And because I do stay in my performance fat burn plan, the sweetest thing that I get in the day is my brownie or my cinnamon swirl cheesecake. So it tricks me into thinking that, hey, I'm getting the carbs that I think I need. I'm getting them in this portion-controlled meal replacement that actually is doing good for my body.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I got my whole stock here, and it always switches every single month with my taste buds. So as a quick review, we don't really have to focus on that much because our programs are so simple, but it really does come down to a big chunk of it being calories in, calories out, which we'll get into more of that later. The reason why it's hard is because most people don't have plans. All those things you listed there, emotional, not being able to track, preparedness, simplicity, support, all of those things. And this is some reasons why our plan works and why our fuelings work. So we have different plans. We have weight loss plans and optimizing plans. And you have to fuel your body depending on what result you're trying to get. We have weight loss plans of 5 and 1, 4 and 2, nursing mothers and seniors programs, some other programs, all ones designed to put you in a calorie deficit that will help you see weight loss and protect lean muscle mass. So like you said, you're losing the right part of your body, which is fat. We also have optimizing plan, which again could be a 4 and 2 or a 3 and 3 or other plans built off of those. The one that we want to dive into a little bit here today, because people don't always understand it. We have this thing in this country where everyone knows everything but knows nothing. And we say things that we hear like buzzwords, but people don't actually know what they mean. I find it hilarious when people use the word cheat day, knowing what an actual cheat day really is in a bodybuilding terms. People try to utilize it as, oh, it's my cheat day. It's my eating off my diet day. It's actually never meant how it was meant to be used. But anyways, we know everything, but we know nothing. So a lot of people just have a hard time understanding what we mean by fat burning stage and why to do it and how to maintain it. And also, if you're not seeing exact results, what that means. That's what we're going to go in and spend the rest of this, of our bulk of our time on. So Casey, could you explain, when you're doing one of our plans, our 5 and 1 is our weight loss fat burning stage when you follow it plan. So can we spend a little bit of time today explaining what fat burning is? Even this last week, I had someone say to me, oh, I could just have a couple crackers. It's not that big of a deal. They weren't that much. It wasn't that many calories. They may be right. And I want to stop right here and tell you guys, if you ate that healthy that day and that person that did eat those crackers, it was a much better day than any 365 of their last. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It was still a solid nutrition day, but it will not constitute a fat burning stage, and it threw them out of fat burning stage. So that person didn't get it, and a lot of people don't. So could you explain what we mean by following 5 and 1 and getting into the fat burning stage?
Yeah, I think what you just hit on, it was a great point, because what we're really talking about is how you feel even on the same amount of calories. So let's say that you did have something that took you out of ketosis or took you out of fat burning. Your calories can still be in that same deficit, and you can still see the same amount of weight loss that the other person who stayed in fat burn would be. The whole difference is how well you're feeling, okay? The whole point, and all of the ways that the reason why I just am fascinated about nutrition, not only all the powerful things that you can do with it, but in a way of making you feel the best with the lowest amount of calories, and then seeing the highest gain on or loss, I should say, less, but the rewards, the biggest gains coming from seeing that body make its transformation and tapping into fat burn. So yeah, let's talk fat burn for a minute. It's a specific metabolic property or requirement that must be met in order for your body to be in this fat burn state. Okay, and that's generally, and the interesting thing is, we talk about people who know everything and know nothing. There's even different ways that I hear in the ketogenic world or ketogenic diet world that people talk a little bit differently, and they're not quite all on the same page. They're close, but they're not real close. And we want to be as close as we can to allow people to really feel great, because that's going to allow somebody to stick with something for a long period of time. So number one is, you'll hear under 100 grams of carbohydrates throughout the day. Okay. Our program supplies roughly 84, 85 grams. When you do a few of the snacks, you might be creeping into the 90s. But here's the kicker, and we're not going to get into a lot of detail about this, but you have your impact carbs and you have your non-impact carbs. So your impact carbs are basically all the carbohydrates minus your fiber. So if we can increase our fiber, which all of our meal replacements have a considerable amount of fiber in, and then as do your non-starchy vegetables are going to have a lot of fiber. So in a lot of ways, we might only be looking at 40, 50, 60, 70 impact carbs, which is definitely low enough to keep you into light ketosis. Okay. Now, Dr. Anderson talks about it in chapter 6, but he talks about why we don't want to go into necessarily a deep ketosis, because there are some benefits to have free-flowing glycogen in your system for your brain and for other functions in your body. So it's not necessary to go into that deep ketosis, which is what you see in a lot of straight up ketosis type of diets.
And Casey, if I could jump in here for a second, just because we have a lot of people that are just where I was in the very beginning, not understanding all of this. So when we're talking about our 5 and 1 plan and following it, you're going to get into what we call a fat burning stage, which is also a form of ketosis. Could you explain what ketosis is to people so they fully understand what that is?
Yeah, so ketosis is basically an energy system that your body uses in place of glycogen or in place of blood sugars. Okay, you're always going to have blood sugars going through your system. Your body has a way of making them, and that's called gluconeogenesis. And there's ways that it can make it from certain properties, certain things in your body. But it's almost like a high octane fuel. Your brain actually does like to be fueled off of it. It feels fantastic. You get the benefits of basically clear mind, so clear thinking, additional energy because you've tapped into that fat burn for all the additional calories that are in your fat for storage. Your mental clarity, I already mentioned that. Appetite control is a huge one. That's the one that I absolutely love because I want to stay in control. If I can stay in control, I can walk right by a real plate of brownies because I don't want to ruin the feeling that I'm having right now, which is staying in fat. I like the mental clarity. I like being in control. When you're in a glucogenic type of plan, as Dr. Anderson labels here in chapter 6 again, is you have those insulin spikes. You have that blood sugar high, insulin drop, blood sugar high, insulin drop. And then each time that you have that drop, you have a new series of challenges. Like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so hungry. I should eat something. I haven't prepared. I don't have my meal replacement with me. What do I do? Oh, there's a McDonald's. And we head over to McDonald's because our brain is telling us, our blood sugars are low. We need to eat something now.
Which Dr. Anderson explains that in the Habits of Health, which is an example that is, has anyone ever eaten like a ton of Chinese food? And then again, insulin spike, breakdown, crash. You ever notice why you're like starving an hour later after you just like literally rolled out of the restaurant?
Or completely sleeping. Just completely you're knocked out cold. So you're not going to burn too many calories in the sleep mode in the middle of the afternoon. So you have so those type of things. But so fat burn is basically your body making energy, or you're using a fuel source when carbohydrates are not present or not the main source that it can rely on for energy during that time.
Perfect. And you were going to go into a little bit about deep ketosis versus what we're in on our plan.
Well, yeah, what you might hear is people who will want to stay under 30 grams of carbohydrates. Ketosis is always explained as a moderate protein diet. And the reason why, and this is where a lot of people get confused, is because they feel that protein can be used to fill their stomachs if they're not eating a whole lot of additional fat or additional carbs. So the problem with that is that if your body sees that you only have so much protein that you need to sustain muscle mass and the other functions in your body, then it sees it as additional. It sees it as your body's really efficient. So it sees it as just having more protein than it really needs. So it's going to break apart the amino acids and it's going to try to make a glycogen. It's going to try to make glucose, basically. Okay, so if it makes glucose, then we still have to deal with it internally in the body because it now exists. Even though you didn't eat it, it was still made. So that can be something that can throw people out of fat burn. So, so in summary, a deep ketosis would be basically high levels of fat. It would be low to moderate protein, and then of course really super low carbohydrates. But again, this requires having to weigh, measure, and keep an eye on every single thing. The cool thing about the meal replacements is that you don't have to keep track. If you just follow the program, probably 95% of the people or higher are going to have amazing results by just doing that. Not only are you going to be in a calorie deficit that's going to show you, anywhere from 2 to 5 pounds of weight loss a week, you're going to see just those other benefits that exist because, it's already formulated for you and you have the nutrients that are delivered at the same time. Yeah,
exactly. So what's kind of cool, I get to just kind of review this again because I know all the people that are where I was at in the very beginning. So on 5 and 1, it's all taken care of for you. You're going to be in that low carbohydrate intake, which is important why to follow it diligently to maintain that fat burning state, 80 to 85 carbs or less. So that's why we're going to track it, which we'll get to later. You're probably going to be between 900 and 1,200 calories a day on our 5 and 1 plan, which, like you were saying before, is a huge deficit to where probably people are at on their normal calorie intake needs. Because you're in a fat burning state and you're tapped into your stored fat, that's what allows you to lose weight as fast as people do on our program. Because you're at a maximum deficit, but still getting all of your nutrition in, and you're not hungry enough, or you're actually pretty full because you're in the fat burning state where you're not going to go off because you're so hungry.
Well, remember, your insulin level's balanced, and then your leptin feedback loop and your CCK feedback and everything else, because it's basically showing you that you've had enough food because everything's been supplied for you. The cool thing is that when people will sometimes say, well, that sounds like too low of calories for me. I know I burn like 4,000 calories, so that seems like an extremely low amount. What I want to remind people of is if you tap into those energy systems, it's a high calorie plan. It doesn't mean that you ate them. It means that you're going to use them. Okay, so if I've got 50 pounds to lose, and I multiply that by my 3,500 calories in a pound of fat, that's 175,000 calories that I'm going to burn through that I get to use. Okay, so if that calorie deficit is 4,000, I can do that in a shorter period of time, right? It's just going to happen faster, but I have all that energy that I need because I've tapped into kind of the mother load of everything that that's being held. And that's a common misconception, is that people believe that they don't have enough calories to supply their body with energy. And that's what the body fat storage was meant to do in a time of need, is to use that energy for those calories for energy.
And when you're in a fat burning state, you're tapped into it. So you're actually getting every amount of calories you need, but you're only intaking a certain amount. Where you were talking about calories in versus calories out is how you lose weight. One, you got to make sure you're getting the right macronutrients, but not being hungry enough where you're like, screw it, I can't continue on. That's why fat burning is so important, is you have to hit all the measurements, which our 5-in-1 plan does. And within that, you will have a maximum deficit, but you'll be able to feel good, feel satisfied, and your body is burning fat. That's why our rate of weight loss is so fast. So, Casey, I was going to say to you, like, this is a question I get a lot. All right, well, I just had half a slice of cake at a party, so I'm really glad I didn't fully indulge, but I don't understand why that affected me, Casey. It was only a small piece of cake.
Yeah. So the great thing is, it's only going to affect you for a short period of time if we don't cave into some of the symptoms that we're going to have a couple minutes later or an hour later or so. So that's the cool thing. If we're trying to keep those carbohydrates at the highest level that we can, but also the lowest level to give us the desired effects, then we're already pretty close to that threshold. So when we bring in additional snacks or additional things that we would consider, like, it's not bad. Like, you could even say, I had a banana. That's health food. Well, not in this case, because of the metabolic parameters that we have to meet in order to keep the benefits of the fat burn, right? So in this case, it doesn't fit into where we want to go. On a calorie deficit though, Brad, it still does. So even if you had your half a slice of cake and you were out of fat burn, doesn't mean you're going to burn any fewer calories. It just means that for a second there, your insulin level's higher and you're going to store some of the stored glycogen, or some of the stored glucose. And then if you can control that dip, which says, oh my gosh, I'm hungry again. Well, I already blew it. I might as well just go to McDonald's because I already blew it for the day. Then we're going to see too many calories probably, right? But if you say, you know what, I'm going to go back to having a portion controlled meal replacement for my very next meal, start to balance out those blood sugars again, and you're going to stay in control. And really, by the end of the day, when you go back to your Habits of Health dashboard and you check in your program, you're going to see that, yeah, you might have been 200 calories over your normal limit, but it's still under your maintenance, which means you're still on track.
100%. I think that's what's going to help people out so much with this, is understanding the maybe risk and rewards. And this, not just what's actually happening nutritionally in your body, but also psychologically, because I think we can all go down that road.
Own it. That's the one thing I say, Brad. Is just own it. You know what?
Yeah.
If it's a birthday party, it's my birthday party, I'm having cake, I'm going to own the fact that I'm having cake. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to realize that I'm probably going to have some cravings in the next hour or two. But that's the price I'm willing to pay for having the cake.
Well,
and if I control that, then I'm good.
Well, that's why I was so glad that this was the #1 voted topic, because I think this is the most important topic of all. It's just so you can know what it means, and so you can know the benefits and the risk and the rewards. For that example, for that person that is a real person, had half a cake at a gathering, that is a win. That means that they didn't give in to other things. They could have probably not had the cake. They would have saw better results. They wouldn't have had to deal with things later on. But that affected their fat burning state. It's going to take a while to get back in. But they made great decisions all day long, and they only had half a slice. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The other thing, as we're going to get into all the way down the line here, is you will see it's what you do over time that makes the biggest difference. And that's the biggest reward here. And that's kind of why we focused on the mentality mostly in the last focus group. This one's mostly the science behind it. So, Casey, in that fat burning state where we're low in calories, 900, basically to 1,200, our carb level is below, somewhere between 80 and 85 and below that. We're taking in somewhere between 64 and 100 ounces of water a day. We're getting adequate protein. What's the average protein amount we take in while we're on plan?
About 104, 105.
So enough to not touch any of your lean muscle mass while you're on program. So that's why you're just losing fat, because you're taking in enough protein to protect your body's fat. Because like you said, you don't want to lose fat. That's another benefit of our program. So do you want to expand on that for a second?
Yeah, yes, I do want to. I want to touch on that, but I also want to kind of give a word of like caution here, because let's imagine that you've been in a completely unnutritional eating pattern. You didn't have very many vitamins and minerals coming in at all. Everything that you ate was poorly processed foods without a whole lot of substance behind it, right? Not very many whole foods and that kind of thing. And let's say that your protein was very low too. For a lot of people, their protein is way too low. So now, if I'm a almost malnutritioned person who wasn't getting enough protein in, and I'm following this program, and now my body's actually seeing that it's healthy, that there's healthy building blocks available, you could have the potential to increase lean body mass with or without exercise, even, because hey, what are these nutrients coming into my system? What's going on here? Oh, hey, I can repair that one muscle I've always wanted to repair from back, last month or whatever. So, I mean, you can start to see that your body's going to get the building blocks it needs. It's going to create a healthier internal environment for your body. And these are all really, really good things. So again, that's why the scale can be a little bit deceiving. If you throw in a little bit of activity on top of that, because now your body's feeling energetic because you're in fat burn, you got the nutrients, you got the extra protein, then there's probably no doubt you're going to see a little bit of increase of lean body mass. And this I've seen in the last 7 years that we've studied people who have done exercise with program, is I can almost tell you every single time there's a gain of lean body mass because of the additional nutrients people were missing from their average American diet. So that's a huge thing.
Is there anything more you want to say on that?
Well, I mean, naturally, the other thing about being in fat burn is fat burn just naturally has protein saving properties, meaning that when you're in a true state of ketosis or fat burn, then your body doesn't go after the protein for energy. It doesn't go after your lean body mass. There's actually some safety mechanisms that your body has prepared for you to be able to maintain your lean body mass while you're in this state. So yeah, you're getting, for most people, 104, 105 grams of protein is more than they're used to taking in, over a couple of days. It's not excessive to most guys. Guys tend to crave proteins a little bit more, and they'll have roughly that much anyway. But it's a good idea to keep a track of that number. Now, again, because I said it was good, more doesn't make it great. It's good in the right, it's almost like like a specific drug or something. Like if you need something to help your headache, then good, but too much of it could be dangerous. It's kind of the same type of deal. It's like, let's find the right parameters so that we can really maximize this.
Yeah, which by the way, Casey, as we wrap up here, I don't think we talked about how much protein we get while we're on plan and why that's good and why it protects our muscle mass. But there's actually an equation that pretty much that you can follow to make sure that you're getting adequate or make sure you're not getting too much, to kind of explain why fat burning works.
Yeah. So when you, one of the reasons why we ask people to get their body composition done is if we see the lean body mass, it's 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. And then that's basically, I have a slide. I don't know if we need to get into the slide, but basically what you would do is you'd take your weight times your body fat percentage. So your weight times, if you're 44%, it would be 0.44. That's going to give you your fat mass. And then you take your total weight minus your fat mass, and that will give you your lean body mass. Okay. Once you have that number, you can kind of see for most ladies now, somewhere between 100 to 110 pounds of lean body mass is going to be normal. And then there's some height, it's going to be varied by height. So that's one of the things that we take a look at too. But for the most part, I would say, I don't know what percentage, a very high percentage of people fall right into the category of 5 and 1. And it works fantastic for them. For most guys, over a period of time, we might be looking at increasing a little bit of protein later on. But most people have heard of that. It's called a 4 and 2 program, which works fantastic for most guys because their lean body mass is over 140 pounds.
Yeah, which I'm really glad you hit on that. And some people that may be like past their pay grade right now. I know it was for me when I first started. As I've learned more, gained more, and learned more about my health, is I've learned how cool it is, the exact parameters they hit. So for the protein amounts, for our 5 and 1 plan, it hits enough where you're going to be taken care of nutritionally on our plan. So what's kind of cool looking at this, and actually it's pretty cool, looking back over it, is if now you know the benefits of being in fat burning, what it actually is, psychologically, how it'll affect you, how it increases your results, but also not to kid yourself. There is a difference between the two. And if you're not feeling good, if you're not feeling satisfied or good with energy, these are the building blocks to go to. First, you're going to check compliance. If you're not feeling good, have you been compliant on plan? Check your protein. If you if you're going way over, that actually can be affecting your fat burning state. That's usually not where someone really has to pay attention to. It probably might be carbs. Track your carbs during the day, because if you're not feeling great, you might be going over your allotted carbs and not paying attention to your condiment intake. So you can pretty much self-diagnose why you're not feeling good. And next week, when we get into exercise and we're talking about all this stuff, we'll be able to get into the amount of protein needed to sustain, as well as healthy fats for that calorie intake. Because one of the things fat burning does for you is it makes sure you feel satisfied at a calorie reduction. Sometimes when people start working out a lot, they feel tired and exhausted. It's not because anything's wrong. It's just because we went from this much of a calorie deficit to this much, and that's too much. And you can actually take care of that slightly. And we're going to show people how to do that next week. So everything you covered today, it helps give so much clarity. Remember that 5-in-1 is for fat burning. Compliance is what makes sure you're in it and getting the best results. But anywhere close to it is still a deficit and still a win from a nutrition and macronutrient standpoint. And then some of the people during this focus group may need or may be focusing on optimizing. They're done with weight loss. So just keep that in mind as well. Casey, as I'm losing my voice more and more, would you explain here today as we wrap up why we really wanted people to use the app through this process? Because we have the Habits of Health Dashboard app and we have taking measurements and a body composition test. Kind of explain why that's so important now that we've explained fat burning and nutrition and weight loss to these people.
Okay. So for people who really want to be in the know, and those people are going to be the ones who may not be feeling completely awesome. The whole goal is to make you feel awesome so that you're burning more calories while you're at work, more calories while you're just moving around, just being you, just being energetic and normal. So number one is when we find out the body composition, we'll no longer be a slave to the scale. That's number one. So when we see changes, we can realize that they are really coming from body fat. And we maybe see an increase of muscle. We may see a decrease of muscle. There's more on that to come too. So that's the first thing that we need to know. But we'll know that lean body mass so that we can determine the protein grams. Okay. The carbohydrates, will also be configured in there, but we have the 5-in-1 that's going to control that, by itself. So once we grab our Habits of Health tracker, now we can start adding those things in so that at the end of the day, we can see that we've hit our requirements in our protein. It gives you that freedom to know that, look, I have like 300 calories left and I didn't finish them for the day. Guess what? You still have those. You can eat those at any time. I mean, you can go to bed at night having those and feeling good, not wondering, should I eat those additional calories, which is another thing of stress, which if you actually think about that, you go to bed under that stressful state, it's not going to be healthy for you. So knowing that number is so important and just over time takes so much pressure off. So I know in the beginning, there's kind of that desire to not have to count anything or do these things. But if you're feeling different or you're really close to your body fat goal, then there's going to be a reason why you might want to take it to that next level just so that you can get and optimize the success with it. But that tracking device is going to be huge to allow you to be able to do that.
And that's why I like that we're doing the focus group. Some people are chugging along. They're probably not tuning into everything we're doing during these 30 days. This is a personal 30 days to focus on moving your health forward in whatever matters for you. Some people want to understand this greatly. So to fully understand it, you'll need measurements or a body composition test would be the gold standard. Because now that Casey's explained all that nutrition, you can see very simply why the scale will not be able to tell you what's going on. Just like you said, Casey, the average woman without activity will be taking in enough protein and nutrition to add lean muscle mass. That's not bulk muscle mass. That's just weight muscle mass that's going to offset the scale. I have people all the time to tell me, oh man, I've only lost 2 pounds in the last 2 weeks. Okay, well, check your measurements. Well, I'm down about 1 inch in my waist in the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. You've lost more fat than 2 pounds.
Yep.
But the scale is not telling you that. And we get so psychologically attached to the scale. That's why we wanted to go over this information. And then between now knowing our lean body mass and knowing tracking what we're actually losing, now we can actually take that to our nutrition and what we're tracking and actually compare it and dial it in even more at the highest level that you can even imagine possible. So this week, take this information, practice it a little bit, track it on the app. You're going to be able to use that as you go forward, especially on week 3 when we really break down tracking and nutrition and body composition. But also for your body composition, make sure you grab that, or at least measurements, so you can start putting it together as you're moving forward during these 30 days.
Yeah, and the other thing to track too is, and I know we discriminated against cake, but that could be bananas, it could be strawberries, it could be, breads, it could be just about anything. It doesn't have to be like the worst thing you can think of when it comes to sugar and carbohydrates. It doesn't have to be cake, but it can be any one of those things. So when you're tracking that, you can see, wow, I was like 120 grams of carbs today, and I actually didn't feel very good all day long, or I felt constantly hungry all day long. You start to put a correlation between those numbers and how you're feeling, and realize that your sweet spot is going to be kind of like your sleep number, right? You're going to know the number that you need to feel the best, and dial that number in every single day, and you're going to have so many great days ahead of you, and you'll stay in perfect control of your appetite, and it'll be a really cool thing.
Perfect. So congrats, everyone. Thank you for the information, Casey. The most important thing, besides now knowing the difference between what plan you're doing, fat loss and not fat loss, what it takes to lose weight and feel good, and now a little bit about body composition. Now you know enough to make sure you know what plan you need to be on. So pick what matters most to you as we start this 30 days. But Casey, I love it because today's a start day. Make sure you grab starting information. Casey, you always say to me, like, I don't know how to help anyone if we don't take basic starting information. There's no way to track what we're making progression in. So any last thoughts on that as we kind of wrap up here today?
No, I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, we have tracker devices for everything else in life that we use, right? Right down to the fuel gauge in your car. We have to know what's going in, what's going out in order to make sure that we don't get stuck on the highway without any gas. Same thing for your bodies. Put yourself in the best position to stay in control of your appetite, stay in control of your energy, your mood, all the things that are going to be there. And then taking out that guesswork, because if you have to guess about something, it's going to be it's going to be a minute by minute choice. It's going to be a day by day choice, and it's not going to be consistent. And you may never really figure out what are the components in your life that are kind of messing with the other ones, right? So if we can get those variables under control, we're going to be able to really hone in on this, and you'll be able to learn your life, because this is about healthy habits for the rest of your life. This isn't about the next 30 days, although this is a starting spot where we can jump into that and create this great momentum. But it's like really 5 years from now, 7 years from now, 10 years from now, these skills that you learn are going to be able to, you can carry them with you, and they're going to allow you to maintain or even optimize into even more, right? Maybe there's no finish line. My saying is there's no finish line. So you're just going to set new goals, and they're going to be amazing. And that's the whole goal.
Exactly. So grab your application, start tracking. We're going to start practicing that week or this week, and get a body composition test done. Gives you so much clarity. So thank you, Casey, for the information. So awesome. As we go over the next few weeks, you'll be basically building on this and proving why everything we talked about today matters so much. So thank you for your time and all the information.
Have a great night.
All right, bye.
Bye.